When did Social Distortion go from having sort of that punk rock kind of stigma almost attached to it to, I mean, I saw the Hard Times Nursery Rhymes tour so far. You bring a couple of singers with you. It's not a punk rock show anymore. It's almost like a kind of a throwback to the good old 50s kind of, you know, rock and roll meets swing meets a bit of the blues,
yeah,
you know?
That's debatable because, you know, I mean, if you had to put label on anything, you know, it's like, you know, punk for me was the first wave. The first wave of punk was...
So like Germs?
No, before the Germs.
Even
I'm
before
talking
that?
about, like, you know, the Ramones, Generation X, the
Right.
Clash. These bands were very blues-based rock and roll. I mean, if you listen to it, it was pretty traditional in the sense of, like, 8 bars, chorus, you know, blues-based rock and roll. These are people who grew up with the music of the 50s and 60s. And I think for us it was like being labeled kind of hardcore. That was when I was really like, I gotta scrape the off my shoes. You know, this is like, because we're not that. We are more. I grew up with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones from 3rd grade to 11th grade before I ever heard the Pistols. So I had a foundation in traditional rock and roll, from T-Rex to, you know, so we had country around the house, we had folk music, we had blues, we had all of that. So, you know, it's like Social Distortion really took Cheap Trick and made guitars louder, and, you know,
Just played it their own way.
yeah.
You could tell even in the early 80s, like seeing the band as a
too.
Oh yeah, I saw the band play all the time.
Remember?
Yeah.
And you could tell that even then at the height of all those thousands and thousands of like Southern California hardcore, you know, really aggressive punk rock bands that Social D didn't want to be part of that, even though Social D was kind of part of it.
And that's probably what brought extra people over, the people that wanted to, you know, didn't want to get caught. I just finished reading a book on Black Flag. It wasn't written by any of the members, but it's a story about Black Flag and basically Greg Ginn and his struggles with having that label of being a hardcore punk rock band, and they could never shake it, and it used to piss Henry Rollins off, you know, to the point where he started hating the fans. And you never want to start hating the fans. I think that's taking a little extreme. Let me talk a little bit about the fans with you now. Have they changed as the audience changed, or is just everybody getting a little bit older, or is it a combination of both? I would think you got people bringing their kids to shows now, things like that. Is that right?
You know, even back in the day, there was I didn't want to just play in front of punk rockers only. I mean, I noticed back in the day, especially growing up in Fullerton, which was very kind of college art, you know, not intellectual, but just like we'd have everything from surfers to intellectuals to just thugs, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good mixture, and I always liked that. As a matter of fact, if I could play you a record of ours and you were not a punk rocker, it was more of a challenge.
Yeah.
I was trying to, like, you know, back then you were like trying to show 99% of society that this music was relevant and that it was the new thing, and that, hey, get rid of your Ted Nugent record, dude. Have you heard the Ramones?
Yeah.
Get rid of that, because this is what's happening.
This is what's happening.
You know.
And isn't it true, though? I mean, you look at 1991, and, you know, Sonic Youth did the video, The Year Punk Broke, and they brought Nirvana to Europe and things like that. But really, I mean, it sounds to me, Mike, like, I mean, when that time was happening, I know you guys were kind of doing your own thing, and you're saying you were trying to spread to a wider mass, but what do you think it helped your career when you know the big Seattle scene happened and stuff, or did you think it was just
that through the last 33 years, you know, we've all kind of opened the doors for each other in some sort of way, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, obviously Nirvana couldn't have made it if the bands prior to them didn't kick open some doors. And then it's weird, it goes full circle. It's like, hey, because Nirvana brought this alternative music to the masses, that means guys with cowboy hats in their trucks in Iowa are like going, hey, maybe this ain't so bad, you know, like maybe the kid I beat up in high school was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. No, it's very true. Very
But
true.
nowadays it's like, you know, my favorite thing to do is every now and then our buses sometimes parked alongside the sidewalk where the line is forming, and I take a cat nap before the show, either at the hotel or on the bus, and my favorite thing to do is look at the line and watch it, because it's so diverse.
Right.
Each, you got 3 people there, 3 bros, you know, and then you got a guy with his girlfriend, and you got a kid bringing, you know, a guy bringing his son or daughter, and then you got 5 down is a daughter bringing her dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just, the diversity is amazing to me, and I love that.
And obviously, it's a great thing. And I had a feeling of that because, like I said, when Steve and myself, one of the guys in the camera here, and myself went down to Seattle to see it, it was like that. We were just looking at the lineup going, I can't believe the range of people that are at this show. And you wonder, you kind of wonder. I guess, you know, since I've been a fan since the early 80s, so I mean, I kind of, I shouldn't say it, but I kind of feel like I have bragging rights. And sometimes what happens when it's one of your favorite bands, you don't like to see them get too big.
You don't want to share.
You don't want to share them. You know what I mean? I understand what you're saying, Mike, about sharing music, though. Nothing is better than giving someone an album and saying, introduce yourself to this and go from there. But, you know, I mean, I'm certainly happy to see where you're going. But I'll say it caught me off surprise when I saw you like playing with Pearl Jam. You know, I didn't really put the two together. How did you end up doing those shows with Pearl Jam a couple years ago? Jonny, you want to go for that one, or Mike, either or?
I'm not sure. I mean, I know that McCready is a big fan, and it might have been through him, but just mutual respect and admiration for each other, and I think it was something they were trying to get together for quite a while. We were supposed to go do a South American thing, and it didn't work out schedule-wise. This is a few years ago.
I can't understand how it wouldn't work out schedule-wise. You guys are never on the road.
Yeah.
I think, you know, too, is important is that, you know, what people forget about punk was that it was supposed to be about being an individual. And, you know, at least in the States by the mid-'80s, you know, it had really started to stereotype itself and become very generic and very, you know, and
what it wasn't supposed to become, basically.
Right, and you know, I used to go and see, like, Levi and the Rockettes and the Cramps and the Germs on the same bill, or Fear and the Blasters on the same bill, and I never left, you know, going, God, you know, the Blasters weren't very punk, you know, and Fear wasn't very rockabilly, you know. It's like it was all part of one scene, and you appreciated the differences in each act, and that just shows me, you know, the thing with Pearl Jam. It's like we probably grew up with a lot of the same in the same scene, but there are differences. But I've learned to really appreciate the differences, and you know. Hence, now we try to get bands to open up for us that we love and we want to turn our crowd onto, and we stopped getting bands who were trying to be like Social Distortion. It was like, oh, this is lame.
Yeah, you don't need to see the same band twice. Absolutely not. You've got Toadies opening for you on this tour, which freaked me right out because I'm like,
it's great.
Possum Kingdom, 1995, and I really haven't heard too much from them, and they disbanded.
They
had something new coming out. I don't know the other opening band. Who's the other opening band tonight, or is it just
Lindy Ortega?
Who is this?
She's from Canada.
Oh, really?
From Toronto.
From Toronto.
Well, we don't talk about people in Toronto. Well, you know what? I look forward to seeing all three to see what they're going to sound like. But one question I had to ask you, Mike Ness, if you don't mind. A little birdie told me, well, not such a little birdie, maybe a big birdie, but somebody told me that there's a book on the way. Is that true?
Yes.
Now, can we talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, we can talk about it. I mean,
have you started writing it?
Yeah.
And I presume it's going to be about your life.
Yeah.
How about this? The story of my life. Is that the name of the book?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's a great title for it. Apropos,
yeah.
So it's going to start when you're growing up in Southern California.
Start at being doomed from the womb. And having to overcome obstacles, and it also I want to write a good rock and roll book. There's going to be plenty of that. There's going to be plenty of war stories, and I don't want to write a Motley Crue book about all the
snorting ants and stuff like that.
Drugs and stuff. But it's also, I want to just write about the struggles of becoming a man, even at 50 years old. It's like why I still do some of these things that I do, and it's almost like you have survival skills as a kid, to survive, and then as you get older they become deficits, and they're no longer any use in the real world.
Yeah. I call that math. As an example. Anyway, that's me personally. Right. Yeah. But no, so the book will cover your life. It'll be from the womb to 50 years old.
From on stage to carpooling, with the kids.
Yeah. But you're not going to talk about the mid to late 80s and your incarceration or anything like that? Will that be included?
I have to talk about that. It's part of my story.
Yeah, good. Because I think people want to hear the real truth about it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because lots of people talk, but it's always good to hear it from the person who lived it.
No, definitely. It's super important to talk about that.
Yeah, a little cathartic too, I'm sure, for yourself personally. So tonight and tomorrow is at the Commodore Ballroom, which you've played a couple of times. Did you bring the ladies with you, by the way?
Not this time.
They're not up, eh?
No.
Cold Feelings. Are you doing the country version of it, or I call it country version, but the different version of it, the alt version?
You might be able to work that out.
He's laughing at me because I'm going to be completely honest with you, and I do not mean to be insulting by saying this.
Yeah.
Cold Feelings is one of my favorite songs.
You want to hear it
I liked it when you rocked it out. Right. Most definitely. Yeah. But now that it's got, I'm only one of a
drummer.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just. You know what? I'm just one of 1,000 people there tonight, and I know I'm going to be entertained beyond belief. Thank you for coming back. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming and see us, Mike.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
And I just want to ask you one last thing, Mike, if I could. Maybe I just got a couple of thoughts from you. I wrote down things like. So it's kind of so I'm trying to make this as clear as I can, but comparing you at ages, okay? So I've got like Mike Ness at 20. How would you describe Mike Ness at 20?
I was an asshole.
Mike Ness at 30.
Still an asshole. More of an asshole, actually. Because I was clean and sober, but like still living in, it was dark, it's funny. It's just like you go through these phases, and it's just like looking back at your high school yearbook, and God, what a nerd I was.
That's the phase I was just talking about.
Yeah, there you go. Right? Yeah.
He
Sure.
avoided me at 30.
Right. Okay. How about Mike Ness at 40?
A little better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Starting to mature, and
I'm just looking at the album here because there's one song in it when you start talking about a life being tough and then getting good.
Yeah. Life gets hard and then it gets good.
Yeah. Just like it always knew it would.
I just turned 50. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm at a crossroads, and I'm pretty pumped.
Pretty pumped.
Pretty good.
There's no stopping Social Distortion for quite some time, I take it.
No, we don't know how to do anything else.
Excellent. Look forward to the shows. Thank you, guys. Thanks for